Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Starting off with a couple waves this morning. Yes, we'll be talking about Kamala Harris agreeing to an interview. Finally. But it is a co-interview with Coach Walz as well. We'll talk about that, give you all the information you need to know. It's also, should be noted, it's pre-taped. And also noted that it's on CNN. Some red flags there. We're also going to talk about Jack Smith. Yes, the lawfare continues. It makes you wonder if the polls may not be as accurate as they're trying to present for Harris, as Jack Smith has brought on a new indictment against the former president, Donald Trump, and this idea of lawfare right before, and it is, if you think about it, it's nearly September, right before Election Day. And we'll be talking about the alleged flop, said that weird, of the border wall with Kamala Harris, and also it looks as if the debate has been agreed to by both parties, the rules by both Trump and Harris. So we'll be talking about all that. First off, a comment right at the end of yesterday's program, and I just missed it. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I'm counting it. Thank you for your political expertise. Wow, that's so nice of you. Love the show. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Of course, I wasn't going to let that one slip by. I had to mention it on today's broadcast. How about this? You know, we've talked about the super mayor allegedly bleeding her town dry financially out of Dolton, Illinois. We've talked about other examples where it's very important to know who you're voting for. In this instance, it could be a school board. And this is out of Oklahoma. An Oklahoma community, and it's one of those negative stories that has a positive, a silver lining to it. But an Oklahoma community has showed up in mass at the town's high school with American flags on their vehicles in protest after a student, get this, a student was told he couldn't fly, Old Glory, from his truck on school grounds. Edmond North High School senior Caleb Horst said school administrators told him on August the 21st that he was banned from having the American flag waving freely on his pickup truck, despite the teen saying he's been flying it for quite a while. I've never really had a problem with it before, and it's our First Amendment. So it's kind of hard for them to infringe upon our rights, Horst said. The Edmond Public School District has a, quote, practice of preventing flags from flying on vehicles and not signaling the, quote, American flag or patriotism. The outlet has reported, and that outlet is KOCO. So banned from waving the American flag on his truck, from his truck on school grounds. That's Edmond North High School out of Oklahoma. The school shared that, again, the quote-unquote practice is not a policy. The practice is designed to prevent disruption and distraction and is enforced to create a, and I quote again, safe school environment, as flying flags on vehicles creates safety issues. To be clear, though, they said in their statement, to be clear, this is not about the American flag or patriotism. Edmond Public Schools proudly displays the American flag prominently and in proper, respectful ways outside each of our buildings and in our classrooms. The district said it prohibits the flying of any flags on vehicles on school property and has had the practice, again, practice, not policy, practice in place for several years that is explained to students at the beginning of each school year. Also, if the practice has been in place for numerous years, that automatically makes it right. Now, the feeling of suppression of the seniors' patriotism sparked outrage among Edmond students as well as community members, and I would argue, rightfully so. So they showed up to the school's parking lot on Monday morning before classes began to display their American pride. You know, this is very reminiscent at a time now. I know this is a high school, but at college campuses when there is continuing to be, but at the time, anti-Semitic, anti-American protests, when those frat bros, as they're called, stopped the protesters from tearing down the American flag, and they became heroes. And I don't ever know what happened with that GoFundMe that had what was going to be probably the biggest party in that college's history, with even some major country artists saying that they would perform at the kegger. So it's very reminiscent of this. And again, I know this sounds, and this is administrators, but this is an example of knowing what you're voting for in the instance of the school board in Oklahoma. I'm sure we'll end up getting an earful. After catching wind of the planned demonstration, the district emailed parents of high school students, warning them not to attend the planned protest. Ooh, this is when you know it's starting to get out of hand. Over 50 vehicles gathered in the parking lot around 7 a.m., peacefully protesting the school's policy and even reciting the Pledge of Allegiance during the demonstration. Horst, who started all this, said, "In the end, we are all American, all united under the flag, and there's not anything anyone can do to separate us." High school senior Vance Miller shared that he decided to participate in the protest because he had a brother in the military and the issue hit home for him. It represents us. It's unity. It represents us as one, and it's our freedom. We have people that fight and die for the flag every day, so I think we should be allowed to fly it. It would be different if we were trying to make a political statement, but there's nothing political about it. Imagine being the administrator or maybe the secretary that has to send out that email to parents saying, don't you participate in this pro-American flag protest. Seems like there's some people in that administration in Oklahoma that maybe got a little bit of the Barney Fife syndrome, getting a little taste of power and being used to bossing students around, not realizing they may have bit off a little bit more than they could chew after they get outside of the confines of the school building. Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Waters posted on X that his office, quote, is working on guidelines that will be issued to all districts to ensure no student is ever targeted for having an American flag. And this is what I mean when you know that you've been off more than you can chew, because this is Oklahoma State Superintendent Ryan Waters. He says that the Edmond Public School District has, quote, a lot to explain. Because remember, it's their practice, not their policy. It's a very key difference in those two words. Walters continued, we have seen parents across the state who are so tired of people, young people, being told to hate their country or not be proud of their country. We want our young people to be proud of our country. Sounds like a lot of patriotic students at the school, and we want to encourage them to show love for the community. Edmond Public Schools. Local lawmakers also announced they requested that the district superintendent update its policies. We'll keep you updated if I hear anything more about that specific story. I know it's not. Well, I think it does paint a larger picture, as every day we have stories about the campus protests that are so encouraged by faculty and administration at colleges, where it's okay to fly a Hamas flag, but here we have at the high school level, because very often we say that this does not start at the college level, where you have a high school, again, telling a student they can't wave the American flag, have the American flag on their truck. And again, when you're surrounded by yes people in kind of the confines of the school building, they saw nothing wrong with that. And they couldn't imagine, I'm sure they're still in shock, that someone would challenge their authority. Again, it's very important to know who you're voting for, even at the school board level. So I want to start that off with, I think what it will end up being a positive story, but also it is an eye-opening story. So when we talk about the protests on college campuses or in the streets, remember where it can very often start from. Where it wouldn't be controversial, I'm sure, to talk about anti-Israel protests at the high school, maybe even showing your support for Palestine. But when it comes to flying the American flag, the school administrators saying that's a bridge too far. Very interesting. All right, we also have a couple updates, not updates necessarily, but kind of reiterating the point from yesterday about Zuckerberg admitting that the Harris-Biden, right? Biden-Harris, I've heard people starting to call it Harris-Biden. I don't mean to do that. The Biden-Harris administration attempting to censor information, even satire, on social media in regards to COVID-19, because remember, the satire number one, normally very effective. Number two, would be more targeting the Bidens, the Harrises, the Faucis, and also Zuckerberg saying that he regrets censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. We've got a couple quick things on that. As I mentioned, there's so much to talk about this morning, but I thought, why not start with, I think, what is ultimately an inspiring story, with that town coming together and protesting the school that would not allow the flying of the American flag. All right, let's take our first short break. Then when we come back, so much to dive into. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Need a dumpster? Call Franzie's Disposal. Franzie's Disposal offers dumpster delivery and pickup, perfect for commercial projects, home renovation projects, or construction waste disposal. Serving Schuyler, Chemung, and Steuben counties, we offer 10 and 15-yard roll-off dumpsters with competitive pricing, no contracts, a 9-day rental period, and we deliver in a 30-mile radius. Make construction debris, household demolition, and home cleanup easy. Call Franzie's Disposal today.
Franzie's Disposal, now offering demolition services.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple quick comments before we jump into the Mark Zuckerberg story, just quickly. But the hypocrisy in the media I think is going to fascinate you. Maybe she'll want the coach to help her with all interviews, maybe even with debates, like the old wrestling tag teams. That's in reference to Kamala Harris in the first sit-down interview, pre-taped with CNN. It's going to include Coach Walls. I don't know, maybe to keep her on track. Not sure. To your point, this is woke, meaning the flag, banning the waving of a flag in his own truck. And I think your point that you think of all the lives that have been sacrificed for that flag, and you have, this is away from the viewer's comment, my own comment. And then you have some busybody administrators in the school who, for whatever reason, maybe just targeting this student, maybe they don't like this student, but saying that their practice is to not allow flags on the truck. I love that the state superintendent came out and said they have a lot of explaining to do. All right. Mark Zuckerberg coming clean on Facebook censorship does truly matter, according to the New York Post editorial board. Now, keep this in mind before I read what they have to say. CNN has this headline: Mark Zuckerberg's election season gift to Republicans. This is the hypocrisy I mentioned. Because what would you say is a bigger election season gift? Zuckerberg saying, yes, the White House did pressure me to censor, and we did ultimately censor COVID material. And also, I regret censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story. Okay, is that a bigger gift here on August? When did it happen? August 27th? Or was the censorship by Zuckerberg in October of election year, October of 2020? Was that more of an election gift? Mark Zuckerberg is handing Republicans political victories ahead of the 2024 presidential election, acquiescing to years of GOP grievances over his company's policies. Okay, so now he's caving because he has the audacity to say he doesn't want to censor information. So now it's Republicans' fault for highlighting this and bringing it to people's attention. Isn't the media fascinating? And the way they can twist themselves up into a pretzel to manipulate a story to somehow blame it on the GOP. In recent days, the Meta chief executive has made newsworthy public statements implicitly supporting right-wing censorship narratives. Well, no, hold on. Supporting right-wing censorship narratives. There's no narratives, Mr. Pasatino. He is saying in no uncertain terms that there was censorship, and that censorship was brought on by pressure from the Biden-Harris administration. So to continue to call this a narrative shows you how long the lie can continue, how they have no issue whatsoever with continuing to push a lie that fits their narrative. And he offered praise for Donald Trump, and that's really where the hatred begins. And this is at CNN, Joe Pasatino. I'm not sure Mr. Pasatino's bona fides. I don't know. You may. So he goes in and quotes Zuckerberg saying that in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content. So how is this him caving in to supporting right-wing censorship narratives? How is this not admitting that the right wing, to use their term, was factually accurate this whole time? And also probably not use the word narrative. The letter was immediately weaponized by Trump, who used it once again to promote the lie that the 2020 election was stolen. This is such a cliche boilerplate article from CNN, again, proving what we all know, what we've all been talking about for so long, the media bias and the way that there is no limit to how low they will go. It is not uncommon for social media companies to reevaluate their approach to content moderation in the run-up to elections, and some experts now believe the companies may have overdone it at times in the 2020 cycle. Wait a minute. Are you now, Mr. Pasatino, are you now caving to the right-wing censorship narrative? But the decision to make such a disclosure in a letter to the House Judiciary Committee is notable. The committee is chaired by Ohio Representative Jim Jordan, who has repeatedly pushed false rhetoric that the 2020 election was stolen and celebrated the dismantling of academic institutions dedicating to researching election misinformation. Zuckerberg's decision to describe the White House's attempt to flag COVID misinformation as pressure and censorship came despite a 6-3 decision this summer by the Supreme Court ruling that the federal government had not overstepped by asking platforms to take down potential misinformation. So now Zuckerberg should not be able to use his free speech and I suppose explain what he saw and what he experienced in this campaign. This is remarkable to me, again, coming from CNN. But this is, again, where the anger comes from because Zuckerberg's letter publicly played into the hands of Republicans, who have long falsely claimed that social media platforms colluded with liberal government officials to censor conservative voices. I know, it's going to get frustrating, folks, because so much of what is being said in this article is outright lies. Because we know that they did, as Zuckerberg reported this week, they did pressure social media and Zuckerberg and others to censor conservative voices and any information they did not like about COVID. And let's go back to the Hunter Biden laptop case when you had those national intelligence officials lie in that letter saying that this should not be reported on because it was Russian misinformation, which it was not. So, of course, all you've got to do is read between the lines of what he's saying. Everything he's saying actually happened, but you are, I don't know, a conspiracy theorist. You're a right-wing conspiracy nut if you believe it. It is unbelievable. I don't want to go into any more of this. It's so cliche. But he said the Meta chief also went a step further, telling the committee that the company's decision to briefly limit sharing, oh my goodness, of the New York Post's infamous October 2020 story on Hunter Biden's laptop was a mistake, a decision he had previously expressed regret over. Zuckerberg said it has been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. But while the contents of the laptop that the Post reported on turned out to be authentic, why is this written in a way very reminiscent of Dan Rather's and the National Guard story about George W. Bush? Well, even though it proved not to be true, we know it is true. Same here. Well, even though it wasn't Russian misinformation, come on, we shouldn't have reported on this. I want to go back to it, what he said exactly. But while the content of the laptop that the Post reported on turned out to be authentic, according to the Justice Department, the New York Post reporting in 2020 peddled a false narrative that was being simultaneously pushed by the Russian government. That false narrative claimed Joe Biden had pressured government officials in Ukraine into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, where his son was on the board. Didn't Joe Biden himself admit and brag about that? Wow. Zuckerberg's letter comes just weeks after he told Bloomberg that Trump's reaction to an assassination attempt was, we're going to say, impressive. I'm not going to use a term that he used. Even after the former president threatened to send the Meta chief to prison if reelected. Remember, this is the outlet also. Should I mention this? This is CNN. This is also the outlet that will have the first interview with Kamala Harris as the nominee for president of the United States, even though she's going to be joined by her running mate, the Coach Walls. Taken together, the remarks show Zuckerberg offering Republicans an olive branch ahead of the election and some political ammunition to wit. In the Bloomberg interview, Zuckerberg said Meta had enacted changes to its platform to reduce the amount of political content reaching users, though it remains unclear what meets that definition. Wow. I think I could easily spend this full 2-hour show dissecting, because I even skipped over some things, dissecting the blatant lies and the character assassination of Zuckerberg for speaking the truth about what was done, and paint anything that has maybe even a little hint of pro-Trumpness, which it isn't in this case, but that helps Trump in any way. For instance, paints that as right-wing conspiracy. Everything's been proven false. Everything's been proven false that any Republican says. It's that easy to write at CNN and elsewhere in today's world. That again by John Passatino. But we are running late, and I don't want to spend too much time. I will mention this, though. On the broadcast of News Nation's The Hill, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said that Meta, quote, got things wrong by censoring certain posts related to COVID, but refused to say if the Biden White House pressuring them to censor was wrong. He didn't want to say because of the political environment we're in. But there is that piece from the New York Post. We're just going to wrap up this discussion on Meta and Facebook when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. Hey, look at these waves coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. I lost my train of thought. Stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
magic of Knapp Winery. It's the perfect fusion of wine, food, and panoramic views. This charming destination will delight every palate with a curated wine flight, wine by the glass, or your favorite bottle to share. Some special finds to try.
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
It's time for the world's fastest, most extreme sport, the NHRA on Fox.
We're going to give it every single ounce that we have this weekend.
It's coming down just to the wire. We're all feeling it.
Gone like a shot.
You gotta bring it all.
This ain't just racing. The NHRA on Fox.
And we are back, just wrapping up our discussion on Zuckerberg and just the outright laughable bias coming from CNN, the same CNN that will be interviewing Kamala Harris this week. But the New York Post editorial board, and I mentioned them specifically with this letter from Zuckerberg because they were the ones that were breaking the news on the Hunter Biden laptop story that Zuckerberg now admits to regretting censoring. They said, the Meta CEO setting the record straight, even though, as many of us have been critical of, that why does all this information come out now that Biden has stepped down? But I'll continue. Absolutely matters because the Biden-Harris Walls crowd and the forces behind them are still all in on social media censorship in the name of fighting, quote unquote, misinformation. And that's what we saw from that opinion piece at CNN. Zuckerberg's letter to House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan basically just admits what the committee proved in hearings a year ago. One, Kamala and Joe's administration pressured Facebook to censor COVID-related content that questioned the government's line, quashing not just opinion, but everything from satire to 100% accurate science. Two, Facebook bent to that pressure. Three, Facebook also suppressed the New York Post's laptop reporting, news that was highly relevant to the 2020 election, and that was happening in October. Many believe it made the difference. The last, meaning the censorship of the laptop story, incidentally, was covered up on purpose by the West's disinformation experts, including at the FBI. Long before we got the laptop, they were conditioning, and this is a very important point, they were conditioning U.S. media and social media to expect a, quote, Russian disinformation dump centered on Hunter's sleaze dealings in Ukraine. Reinforcing it was that letter that has now been referred to as the spies who lied. And it was all preceded by Hillary Clinton going back with that disinfo success in creating the supposed Russian Gate scandal. You remember all of that. The New York Times and the Washington Post won Pulitzer Prizes for their roles in advancing that totally false narrative. The self-appointed disinfo experts across the West who claim that the only way to fight censorship is to let them censor the rest of us are utter frauds. Under Harris and Biden, they briefly got their Ministry of Truth and the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Governance Board. And they did have a White House office with branches across the U.S. Intelligence Committee and a guest star role by Dr. Anthony Fauci, dedicated to the vast social media censorship exposed by the Twitter files in Jordan's committee. But that's why CNN tries to discredit the whole thing because Jim Jordan's name's attached to it, or discredit the whole thing because it somewhat proves what Trump has been saying. Democrats on that committee, by the way, used their time in the hearings to attack the journalists who'd exposed the Big Brother feds. And have you seen the video of Vice President nominee Tim Walz falsely explaining, quote, there's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy. Yes, that could be your future vice president who said that, Tim Walz. So yes, it absolutely matters that Mark Zuckerberg has come clean and taken steps so that Facebook won't get fooled again. Because the experts are still busy plotting how to grab more power if Harris and Walz win this November and looking to help make them win happen. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the lawfare that was announced yesterday with Jack Smith. And I know I received some messages last night, but Jack Smith has indicted. Now, let me reword it. Donald Trump faces new indictment in January 6th Capitol riot case after the Supreme Court immunity rule. We are going to talk about that a little bit later on. I didn't want to spend that much time on the Facebook and social media story, but I do believe it has very big implications in the long run because social media will play another major role in all this. So my thought is you will see more attempt at censorship, whether it's on social media or on the mainstream media. Because let's face it, a media that's willing to allow the nominee for president of the United States, who has never received a vote from her own party, to be in that position, to not answer questions, not do press conferences, that they are not up in arms, shows you how willing and how far they're willing to go, I should say, to make sure that Harris and Walz cross that finish line and run out the clock. And that's why, same CNN with that bias article that I just brought you, that's why they undoubtedly get the first interview. Listen to how they say it too. Harris and Walz to sit with CNN for exclusive first joint interview since campaign began. Well, it's not just the first joint interview, it's the first interview that Harris has done. Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will sit with CNN for their first joint interview. It's her first interview since becoming the nominee, and even since becoming the presumptive nominee, since Biden dropped out. No press conferences, no interviews. It is shocking that those in the media, it goes to prove yet again their bias, and that the fix in many cases is in. The interview, conducted by CNN's chief political correspondent and anchor, Dana Bash, will air at 9 p.m. tomorrow. It occurs as the candidates embark on a bus tour throughout the battleground state of Georgia and marks the first time Harris sat with a journalist for an in-depth, on-the-record conversation since Joe Biden dropped out and he endorsed her on July 21st. Which, if you read between the lines on how that was written, first of all, doesn't mention that it's the first time her by herself. They try to maybe dupe you into believing that this is their first joint interview. Well, there must have been other interviews with the nominee for president of the United States who never received a single vote from her party, because that seems like that would raise a lot of questions. Nope. First sit-down interview, and that comes, about 5, 6, 7? Oh, well, it's in the second paragraph. Okay. Buried in the second paragraph at the very end. But let me reread this section. The interview conducted by CNN's chief political correspondent anchor Dana Bash. Yes, pre-recorded, already done, in the can, as they say in the business, and will air tomorrow at 9 p.m. Will there be editing? It does not go into detail. The 37 days since her candidacy began have generated a swell of enthusiasm and momentum for Harris, including at last week's convention in Chicago. This is coming again from CNN. No wonder they got the first interview. We're going to talk more about this. I don't want to run late. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. Are you excited about tomorrow's interview with Harris Walz? What do you think about Jack Smith and the lawfare rearing its ugly head, returning here in nearly September, right before Election Day? Also, it sounds as if the debate is on. I know we talked quite a bit about the debate yesterday. What are your thoughts on that? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Seems like it's the same rules, and we'll get into depth on that as a CNN debate. And what else? A lot more. I can't remember everything we've got to talk about this morning, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Hesselson Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Dale pues, vamos allá, muévete más loco, como solo tú lo sabes. Así es, con las manos en la cabeza, sacúdete, sacúdete, mira, sacúdete.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. Just reading last minute comments here. So much to cover this morning. The interview is what we're talking about right now. Yes, the now joint interview. It's not just Kamala Harris. It is with Coach Walls as well. And that is taking place tomorrow. Well, it's already been pre-recorded. But it will air tomorrow at 9 p.m. on CNN. I'm not sure what you think of CNN's capabilities when it comes to asking the tough questions. I would ask for your comment on that. Couple comments. I really like how J.D. Vance combats the media bias by actually going after them indirectly on the tarmac. Vance was in regards to using the cover of CNN to have an interview. Where is J.D. Vance actually went after the media? Where he actually went after the media. Okay, I see what that says. So, yes, I think J.D. Vance has been doing a great job when it comes to combating the media. Because if you look at that ABC interview that he had over the weekend, you would never see a reporter ever treat Harris or Walls in that fashion. You won't. Don't expect it. But to keep level-headed, to keep cool, calm, and collected like he did, and explain the points, explain what their beliefs are, what their priorities are, and then explain how Harris has been quiet, silent. Last I've checked, not even her policy positions on her website. Another comment from a different viewer. Just heard about the joint interview on your show. Yep. Just what the nation needs, a remake of Dumb and Dumber. Well, it is. Thank you for the comments. We read them all. We read them all. I'll try to. I'm sure I sometimes miss it. Don't take that personally, but if I do. But we've had plenty that were not what you would call pro-Trump. Okay, we're continuing back to what CNN is telling us about the interview. This 37 days since her candidacy began have generated a swell of enthusiasm and momentum for Harris, including at last week's convention. But her lack of a formal news conference or interview has generated criticism from her Republican rivals. Hold on. Why is it always generated criticism from her Republican rivals? You and the media should be ashamed of yourself that it doesn't say criticism from those in the media. You should be ashamed to not try to use it as a talking point to go after Republicans. Because think of what they just said there. Their job, supposedly, is to speak truth to power, right? But let's push that aside. Their job is to get interviews, to spread the news, right? So when you have the nominee for president of the United States with such a unique story of never having received a vote, I know I say that a lot, but it's not a criticism. Well, it kind of is, I suppose, but it's just pointing out a fact that raises more questions that the media would want to get to. Hey, what's your policies? Why are you ready for this? Boom, boom, boom. So to me, the media, this line should read that it's the media's criticism, not Republicans. Her lack of a formal news conference or interview has generated criticism from her Republican rivals. Thursday's interview fulfills a vow she made earlier in August to schedule a sit-down before the end of the month. One sit-down interview. Now, they continue. With the interview, Harris's extraordinarily truncated campaign is entering a new post-convention phase. Her team is anticipating more scrutiny as she and Walz enter the final week. Why would they anticipate that? What would lead them to believe whatsoever that they are going to get scrutiny if the media isn't even scrutinizing them over the fact that they have not done a press conference or sit-down interview? What in the world would make them think that there's going to be scrutiny? That has done little to dampen criticism issued most sharply by the vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, for going more than a month as the Democrat Party's standard bearer without facing the, quote, scrutiny that comes with a sit-down interview with a, quote, journalist. Now, okay. They admit in the next sentence from CNN, Vance and Trump have held numerous media availabilities during the same time. Yes, and in very hostile territory. Look at ABC. But think of that again. That has done little to dampen criticism issued most sharply by the Republican vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance. Again, why is that criticism not coming from the media, who essentially gets paid by interviews like this? And do you believe, after reading this piece from CNN and the piece I had earlier about Zuckerberg, do you believe that they, meaning Harris and Walz, will face scrutiny because Dana Bash will be the journalist that wants to get to the bottom? Do you think Dana Bash wants to have a career? Or do you think she wants to do something that could hurt Harris? I don't know if the interview will be edited in any way. I don't have the answer for that. I don't believe you will see a word salad tomorrow. I know that. Now, maybe that's because it doesn't happen. Maybe Walz is there to throw interference when things start going off the rail. He can interrupt. I'm not sure. But if Dana Bash were to do something in this interview that will be highly detrimental to Harris's campaign, Dana Bash's career will not be long for this world. She will be out at CNN. And then they even make sure, even though they admit that Trump and Vance have made numerous media availabilities during the time that Harris did not, then goes on to say, but some of Vance's and Trump's media interactions, however, have presented problems for both candidates. And they go on to use that paragraph as a way to criticize Trump and Vance. So that's what you get as a Republican. If you make yourself available to the media, you will then be criticized, while your opponent does not have to have media availability. The interview will present Harris with the first chance to indicate her position on various domestic and foreign issues during a campaign that has so far been heavy on vibes but light on concrete policy. She will also have a chance, if she chooses, to explain how her positions might differ from Biden. If she chooses? So choose your own adventure here? Also, have you seen how many things she's flip-flopped on? Axios, and I've seen a lot of pushback on this, by the way, but Axios suggesting that no, now she is very much for a border wall. We'll get to that later on. Now, I will give credit here, right at the end of CNN, the last paragraph, the last section. Previous major interviews have presented a challenge for Harris. During a 2021 sit-down with NBC's Lester Holt, Harris responded with annoyance when asked why she had not visited the U.S.-Mexico border as part of her assignment to investigate root causes of migration from Central and South America. And then he goes on with the whole quote. You've heard that. They don't necessarily talk about her word salad, though. They talk about this instance where she got annoyed. But more recent interviews have shown Harris on steadier grounds. Anyway. So that's your update on the first interview as president that is now a joint appearance. We've got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Limited all-wheel drive featuring heated leather seats and power moonroof for only $379 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby Horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-2344.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. A comment from a viewer. Tim Walls reminds me so much of an older Tommy boy that I'm expecting him to tell me how to get a good look at a T-bone. That's a very, first of all, funny statement. He does have kind of that stance a little bit when you see him on stage. So that's I had not thought of that, but I like the comparison. Back to this quickly, this joint interview with Harrison Walls. The vice president has been I didn't know this, by the way, and this is coming from the New York Post. The vice president has been seeking to warm up to the press. You know, she's had some awkward encounters, to say the least, with frequent off-the-record question and answer sessions in the back of Air Force Two, though her staff has not allowed any of her responses to be used on the record by journalists, meaning that any awkward moments, apparent deceptions, or ill-prepared lines aren't circulated outside a very small group. And of course, it helps her practice, exactly what we had said on this program. There was no doubt that she'd be practicing. Out there practicing, I'm sure the media is helping her right along with, I want to word it that way, or boy, that would have looked bad in the headline. There's no doubt. Harris has had a long career in the public eye, but also has struggled in the past with effectively countering criticism. Do you see Dana Bash, though, really? Dana Bash? I know I always say it wrong. Do you see her pushing back or getting in any way aggressive? I mean, not to the level that you see when J.D. Vance or Trump gives an interview. We can never expect that. But do you expect any type of pushback, or just a softball interview, maybe Walls stepping in sometimes to protect her? Harris is likely to face questions about other policy areas, including her purportedly evolving position on a range of issues, such as her since disavowed support for single-payer health care, decriminalizing illegal border crossings, and banning fracking for oil and natural gas. As Trump and others have called her a chameleon. So there you go. We've got more on Harris's campaign. We still got a lot to talk about. If you are just joining us, yes, you may have heard yesterday Jack Smith has filed another indictment against Trump, that lawfare, making sure, and maybe that speaks something about the polls that we're hearing, where they say Harris is up. Maybe those polls aren't as accurate behind the scenes as they were hoping, so we get Jack Smith back involved. We'll talk about that. Oh, comment from a viewer. Tommy Boy reference was great. It was. Thank you very much for both viewers and their comments. Keep them coming in. But we got to take a short break, and then wrapping up hour number 1 of Frankly Speaking. It's hard to believe. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Enjoy a taste Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
I'm Marian Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Comment from a viewer. I'm thinking that Kamala will get live coaching from the coach. There's something in radio where when I worked in radio, especially on the morning shows, they liked it to be a duo because you can work off of each other. Now, my show was not that way. This is more FM, but, work off each other kind of back and forth. I think it's, to your point about coaching, I think it's a little bit about that, where she could feel more comfortable. If she gets into a word salad, he can kind of interrupt. He can interject at certain times. Now, of course, I have not seen it, even though it has been pre-recorded. It's going to air tomorrow. So I think it's that, so she has someone to feel comfortable around, to always have that safety net of someone there to protect her at the end of the day. We're going to talk about the media embracing Kamala Harris, as if we haven't been talking about that all morning. But before that, this is kind of interesting. I do have a couple things about RFK Jr. But before RFK Jr., we have another third-party candidate, Cornel West. Cornel West, independent left-wing presidential candidate, said that, and this came out Friday and has not really been reported on. He said that Kamala Harris's campaign offered him a job in her potential administration and to pay his campaign debts if he dropped out of the 2024 race. Now, he made this stunning accusation after the close of the DNC in Chicago on a program called Status Quo News. The two discussed offers to drop out in anticipation of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s anticipated decision to suspend his campaign in battleground states and to endorse former President Donald Trump. The show host said, what were the offers that were made and what was your response? Cornel West said, a number of them reached out just saying, I need to get on the bandwagon. This is a historic moment, especially a black moment. I told them, I said, you all just talking to the wrong brother. You can offer resources or positions or what have you. That's not what I'm all about. That's not the game I play. So the host again says, can you specifically, if you can, you mentioned offering positions, resources. Were you offered a position in the Harris administration? Any financial incentives to drop out? He said, there was definitely various kinds of offers. I won't go into concrete details of it. I really won't, because I don't even want to make that the focus of this interview. I don't think it was that high up of a position. Sheraton said, did they? Just one more on this. Did they offer you a cabinet position, a lower position, and offer to pay off any of your campaign debt? He said, they offered serious, substantive conversation about all of those that could lead towards some real, and then it became unintelligible. Just kind of interesting there. All right, we've got Wow, it's hard to believe. Okay, I don't want to jump into our next article, our next topic, I should say. We are going to talk about Jack Smith bringing on new indictments to former President Trump over January 6th. Couple just real quick things about RFK Jr. There's also Axios reporting with no quotes from Harris or her team that Harris is flip-flopping on building the border wall. Yes, now she's no longer in opposition. She likes the idea of a border wall. Trust me, that's not the case here, but we're going to talk about that. Now you see the media kind of proactively controlling her message, thinking that, hey, we can really bring her across the finish line if we help her along the finish line. Also, yes, I said Jack Smith. A couple things here about Trump in general. The debate looks as if it's been agreed to, that it's still on, and the rules will be very similar to CNN's, or I guess exactly like CNN's with the Biden debate. What are your thoughts on that? Do you still think it's going to happen? I have my doubts, but hey, we're getting close, a little over 10 days before the debate. I was wrong last time, though I was right in a weird way, because Joe Biden definitely shouldn't have done the debate. I just thought he wouldn't. But it turns out he just shouldn't have done the debate, and he would still be the nominee right now. Keep that in mind. If they could have run the basement campaign like they are with Harris right now. One quick thing, I know you've heard about this a lot, folks, but it really means so much to me, and that is the upcoming benefit for the Salvation Army. We are going to be pushing this a lot until September 8th. If you are able, please support, even if you can't attend. If you can't attend, but you still want a ticket, I will. I can sell you the ticket, Brown Cigar Store. You can go over to Salvation Army. You can purchase a ticket and just say, hey, we want to donate this back, and I'm going to talk with someone from over there, and we'll go donate them to one of the fire halls or one of the police stations, and someone can come over if they're working that shift and have great food from Billy Spalding at Corning Catering. But if you can attend, that's even better. We're going to have some special guest speakers, some people that you've seen on this program in the past. It's coming up September 8th at Nazar Civic Center, just $15 a person, and it's going to be a barbecue picnic, again, by Corning Catering. You can get your tickets at Brown's Cigar Store, friends of Brown's, right here. If I'm in the window, just knock on the window, but only if I'm here. No one else has tickets in the building. And then the Salvation Army 32 Denison Parkway East. So please help out this amazing cause. They do so much good for our community. And one last way that you can purchase them before we wrap up this hour, you can scan that QR code, and it takes you right to purchasing tickets. Really, this is an amazing organization, and I can't talk enough about them. In full disclosure, I am the chairman of the advisory board, and I say that only because I see the numbers each month of how many people they help, how many in our community that they help at a time when financially, because of a lackluster, for lack of a better word, kettle campaign, they are still doing everything I've always done in this community, but it's just become more difficult in today's economy because of the fundraising at the kettle campaign that was not as successful as normal. So please help out. And if you have any questions, you can contact me at the number on the bottom of the screen, just like you can at any time during the show, and I can find a way to get you the ticket. We can figure out something there. Maybe it's not too late. I can mail it. We could anything to make it as easy as possible on you to attend this amazing event. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up in mere moments. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Whether because of discomfort
lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation. You sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs. Increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
I got lost reading all these great comments and adding the waves to the counter. Thank you so much for joining us for hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and as always, we are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Okay, a couple of comments. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I am sorry, but this interview will be as scripted as a theater production. No true journalism involved. Referencing the joint interview, the first interview that Harris has given since becoming the nominee, or since Biden dropped out even and endorsed her. And then at the last moment, now it's a joint interview. Again, I think that's to play off each other so that she doesn't get trapped in a word salad or get angry over a tough question. Because remember, she's not used to tough questions. Most Democrats aren't, but specifically this administration is not used to tough questions. So I think that's a good point. I don't see... Listen, the media wants her to run this out as much as anybody. So no, I don't see Dana Bash trying to ask her a tough question that could end up hurting her in the long term, because that could be the end of Miss Bash's career. So I would tend to question how important this interview will be, how groundbreaking it will be. But keep in mind, we may only see one other interview all of September. Who knows? If the media allows her to get away with it, why not? I mean, I know that's frustrating, but if Harris can get away with it, why would she give interviews? Why would she put herself in a scenario that could hurt her campaign if the media isn't going to push back? And let's face it, CNN said earlier that there has been a lot of criticism that she has not given an interview by her Republican opponents. Not by the media, who should be hypercritical of it, but by her Republican opponents. So in what world should a presidential nominee not be asked questions, not have to tell the media and the voters of the United States what her policy positions are? Also, with her unique story of not getting the vote from her own party, never receiving one vote. That's not to say they don't support her. I'm not saying that. But you have a unique scenario where you could have someone in office that never received the support, the vote, for her being the nominee for president of the United States from the Democrats. So there are so many questions. We don't know about her policies. She seems to have flip-flopped on some of these. So if she does this friendly interview with Dana Bash and CNN, when will we see the next interview? Will we ever see a single, not with Walz, but by herself, sit-down interview? Another comment, and thank you to this viewer who left a voicemail. I did not get a chance to bring it up yesterday. But good morning. Starts with that. Thank you. I didn't hear a response yesterday, but I wanted to ask your opinion. What if Biden gets ill or, God forbid, isn't here for the rest of his term? Does that automatically put Harris into the presidential spot, from VP to the presidential spot, meaning that she will be the president before the election? Yes. Simple answer, yes. Heaven forbid, no one wants that. But let's put it in a more, not friendly is not the right word. Let's put it in a nicer thing to think about, I suppose, than that. if he decided to resign. If he said, you know what, I can't, my health is deteriorating and there's some major decisions coming down the line. I just don't, because Michael Moore actually asked him, Liberal director asked him to do this, and others had too, for him to step down. So then, to your point, the viewer, then she has the power of the incumbency. Now, it's not a long stretch, but there's still something to be said about her being president and then saying, okay, keep me in. I proved that I can do it. Now, I would say it's, and we don't want anything to happen to Biden. He is the president of the United States. And I know you don't either. And that's exactly why you said, God forbid. But yes, that would be that. Now, here's something else that's interesting, though. If that were to happen, Vice President Harris would move up to president. The now vice president, after that happened, that move happened, would be House Speaker Mike Johnson, which would be a really fun Odd Couples episode for the next 2 months. But no, I don't believe Joe Biden will be going anywhere. I think if they thought that had as much power, the power of incumbency, they would have done it sooner. And also, listen, they stabbed Biden in the back. His party, who he's been so loyal to, stabbed him in the back so bad and did him so wrong that I don't think they'll ever call for him to do that. They at least will say, okay, we don't want there to be an asterisk that you couldn't fill out your term. If they're that cutthroat, I mean, we already saw a level of cutthroat from Nancy Pelosi that is, well, eye-opening to some who don't follow politics. But I think that may be one thing that they insulted him by not giving him a primetime spot at the DNC. I do think this may be the one thing that they throw him the bone and say, finish it out. So thank you for that. But the viewer goes on and says, I'm just concerned about that because there's so much, monkey business going on within the Democrats. They'll do anything, and they've already kept Joe Biden hidden and his health hidden from us. And we all, the media tried. We all knew, but we were called, just like we're seeing with other information now, like the Hunter laptop story. We were called conspiracy theorists. Love the program. Like I said, I'm off and late to work because I can't leave it. Thank you. Bye for now. Don't get in trouble. I mean, we need all the viewers that we can get, but don't get in trouble at work. So thank you for all that. We've got other messages coming in, other waves as well. We'll get to those after the next break. Okay, this is about the media, and I know we've been focusing on this heavily all morning. But forget hope and change. You remember that was Obama's slogan. According to Dan Gaynor, also forget joy and excitement. That was pushed very heavily during the DNC. She brings joy. The legacy media's preferred term for Vice President Kamala Harris's coronation, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this right. It's a combination of the word feminine and phenomenon. Phenomenon. I feel embarrassed just saying that. Phenomenon. The term comes from a song, but was officially embraced by the Harris campaign in a TikTok video. Harris is trying to co-opt a pop culture marketing term to build excitement, especially among young voters. There are even t-shirts with pictures of her emblazoned with the word feminine. I did good at first. Feminine on and on. You get it. I had it right at first. It's just the vice president's marketing team pretending she's hip. So expect to hear that word more, even said correctly. Feminomenon. That was close. I'm not going to keep yelling into the microphone. This is embarrassing. The problem isn't Harris' use of the term. Every candidate wants to build momentum and, have like that Obama hope poster, right? And create a coolness factor, especially when you don't have it. Kind of like Hillary. Harris is trying to overcome that too. The problem is the legacy media, the legacy press, have either embraced it or celebrated the attitude. And they've been doing that same fandom-based faux journalism since Biden was pushed out of the race. You've seen it. We all have. Like the hype for what was called Brat Summer. Brat comes from another song. NBC defined that as a trend defined by party animal antics, cool girl style, and lime green everything. Politico was one of the most overt on that one, running the headline, Kamala's Hot Brat Summer. That piece had the nice and neutral statement that she's already made the internet fun again. These are the media outlets. So that's why you're hearing so much about vibes. Again, it's about the candidate being cool. Harris being informed or having position on anything doesn't matter. CNN's anchor, who again she'll be doing an interview with CNN, not this anchor, CNN, Casey Hunter summed it up nicely. It's a vibes election. Translation: the legacy press won't demand Harris speak on any of the far left positions she has taken, because that might prevent her from defeating Donald Trump. Can't have a phenomenon who is fumbling with questions. She simply doesn't answer any. The campaign is just counting on guys like Jonathan Karl to pretend otherwise, as he tried during an embarrassing interview with Tom Cotton. Yes, if you have not watched that, please find it on YouTube. Go wherever you have to watch. Because Jonathan Karl said, well, no, she changed her position on, and I can't remember what it is. I'll have to go back and watch it. Saying she changed her position on that. And Jonathan Karl, no. She flip-flopped on it. She did flip-flop on that issue. And Tom Cotton said, you don't know that. Who told you that? Well, that's what's reported. No. She's never said that to you directly. And it was such a powerful, important moment from Tom Cotton calling out the bias at ABC News with Jonathan Karl. Sadly, this media strategy is over 60 years old. I would just add, though, that it's hyper now, that it's even more weaponized. Journalists were hot for cool when they helped elect John F. Kennedy, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. Like the legacy press, all three of them have the letter D after their names. There is no difference, though. Or there is a difference, though. No one had to make up the fact that Kennedy, Clinton, and Obama were all charismatic and strong speakers in public or even one-on-one. But in 2024, the Harris vibes have been so strong because she is so weak. Journalists are trying to force the issue because she has none of that. As they call it, Riz, short for charisma. It's not just her cackles or the unwillingness to talk to reporters or anyone else for that matter. Harris isn't good at this. She ran an awful campaign in 2020 where her only highlight was calling Biden racist, as we've mentioned so many times on this program. Still, the legacy media are thrilled with their manufactured candidate. Whatever idiotic theme they can promote, reporters are there. Journalists celebrated her muscular patriotism, talked about a bakery's Kamala cake, and worshiped Kamala Harris's cooking wisdom. That's the kind of devoted coverage Republicans can't even buy, for heaven's sakes. And that's what she's getting on the regular basis. CNN's Chris Wallace couldn't contain himself. Quote, she's had this kind of speed dating relationship with voters, and so far, it's a love affair. That's Chris Wallace on CNN, folks. I'm not making this up. This is a fantastic piece from Fox News and specifically Dan Gaynor. Well, the love affair is certainly in the press, that's for sure. Several outlets were so desperate for meme-worthy content that they promoted the significance of Harris's tan suit. CNN, the New York Times, LA Times, Hollywood Reporter, and more all celebrated Kamala Harris's tan suit surprise. CNN called it the look of the week, asking if it was a nod to Obama. CNN even wrote up a staged story about one of Harris's young grandnieces watching the nomination. The one-sided headline naturally focused on Harris becoming the first woman president. Quote, a photo captures what Harris's nomination could mean for young girls. A Times photographer sat with Harris supporters watching her family and shot a photo. CNN then tried to manufacture a moment. That's how the press tried to counter Trump, with spontaneously generated this year's most memorable photos after the assassination. Bullet just missed killing him. That's why they cover that story. So they'll manufacture photos for Harris, and that's why they will not cover, will not show that iconic photo. So don't look to the legacy media for substance. Kamala Harris is a phenomenon, and you better agree or you won't be cool. That's exactly it. You better get joyful whether you like it or not, but that's going to be the point. You won't be cool if you don't accept this vibe presence, this vibe election. We better take a break because I'm running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hasselson
Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated Hot Spring Hot Tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call now.
Vamos, dale pues, vamos allá, muévete más loco, mózalo, tú lo sabes, así es, con las manos en la cabeza, sacúdete, 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 mira, sacúdete.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
We are back, frankly speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, reading everyone's comments. Let's get right to them. Here we go. Journalistic integrity is gone. It's a thing of the past. I would say just watch those interviews and the outright anger and bias towards J.D. Vance, towards Tom Cotton. This is a long time coming. That's why poll after poll shows that there is not the trust in the media, because it's so transparent what they do. So good point there. Another question regarding her filing for president. Does that count as a term? Oh, filling in for president. I'm sorry. Would that count as a term for her somehow, or part of a term? How does that work? I'm not sure. I don't have the answer for that. So the idea is, let's say back when Biden said he wasn't going to run for re-election, if he also resigned and Harris took over as president and then Mike Johnson became vice president, which would be wild. I don't know how that works. If that counts as a full term and that means she only gets one more term, I wouldn't know that. That's got to be for someone like Joe Sempolinski next time he's on, so I'll ask him. Comment from Ken, our buddy Ken. So now we know where Harris has been for the last 5 days. Her, Walls, and CNN have been practicing for their interview on Thursday. Very good point. This will be the first test for Harris off the monitor. That's why Walls is going to be there with her to chime in when she starts to flounder. If she does okay in the scripted interview, they will feel slightly more confident that she can be coached by NBC in preparation for the debate. She will know all the questions that will be asked in the debate and practice the response with NBC, but won't be able to fall back on Walls. If she doesn't do well, they will be looking for her replacement. Interesting. Thank you, Ken. I will say, as I mentioned earlier, in radio, that was a very common thing to have two people to play off of each other because it just makes the conversation easier. I think that's what we're seeing here with Walls to protect her if she does get into some heat, some trouble, and also the kind of it'll be a friendlier interview. Dana Bash isn't going to ask the tough questions anyway. So, but we will see. Time will tell because it has been pre-recorded. As to your point about knowing the questions. There is precedent for that with Donna Brazile and giving the questions to Harris. So there is precedent for that. I do find it interesting that piece from CNN, or maybe it was New York Post, saying that she has off-the-record, informal Q&As with the media in Air Force 2, but none of it can be reported on because it's off the record. Why I find that so interesting is, so you're basically having a conversation with reporters just off the record, so it's not a Q&A. Second thing is that that's undoubtedly practice for the interviews that she may end up giving, or the one that she did the other day. Most likely a lot of great practice and a lot of great tips from those in the media saying, ooh, I wouldn't have worded that way, or, well, that's an easy question. Well, you know, that sounds more like a practice session to me than it does a Q&A. I just wanted to mention real quickly, because we had talked about Cornel West. RFK Jr. says that Kamala Harris refused to meet with him, and that is weird. I reached out to her, and I reached out to a number of people, including some relatives of mine who are very, very close to her personally and to the Democrat Party. And they just said that's a non-starter. There's no way in the world she's going to talk to you. Kennedy said he was offered a meeting with a low-level campaign official for Harris, who is the Democrat nominee, and I said, okay, I'm not interested in that. When pressed, he said maybe the same reason that she hasn't given an interview is maybe why they don't want to meet with him. RFK Jr.'s ex-running mate hits back at the critics. There's been some nasty criticism of RFK Jr., especially by his own family. And then we saw yesterday that actor going after RFK Jr.'s wife because she hasn't spoken out against her husband in strong enough terms. But California entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan hit back at criticism after her former running mate, and he's technically still on the ballot in some places, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., endorsed Trump. Shanahan responded on MSNBC. This was with Lawrence O'Donnell, where Lawrence O'Donnell said that RFK Jr. fully disgraced his father's name, and the Democrat strategist James Carville, who we mentioned yesterday, suggested he should be institutionalized, that he is the symptom of a mental health crisis. This is what Nicole Shanahan said. This is wild. I'm asking myself what happened to the party of when they go low, we go high. Because right now, they're just going lower and lower and lower. And I'm shocked, I'm saddened, I'm worried for them, honestly. They've lost their soul. They've lost their direction. Yes, there is, and we see it daily in the coverage. Sadly, kind of just a hatred that is brewing that is just not healthy. That is really, when you start turning on your own sibling, saying that he betrayed your family name, you seem more upset with him endorsing Trump than any Kennedy was upset about Chappaquiddick and elsewhere. It is, and other, I shouldn't say and elsewhere, Chappaquiddick and other stories regarding the Kennedy family and the Kennedy legacy. Now, CNN's Scott Jennings, who made that great point during the DNC that Democrats have been in charge of the White House for 12 out of the last 16 years. And if they keep pushing this idea that we're not going to go back and we've got to fix these things, it's really interesting. Well, Scott Jennings said on Newsnight yesterday that in reference to RFK Jr.'s endorsement, the Trump campaign seems convinced that they have come up with a rainbow coalition on the right, said host Abby Phillips. Jennings said, well, they have built a campaign of people who deeply, deeply, deeply distrust institutions, government, and sort of Washington elites. That is the ethos of this campaign. RFK Jr. fits into that. Tulsi Gabbard fits into that. You know, I'm not sure how much endorsements matter. I will say this because his name is Kennedy. He will draw a crowd. I mean, you've got to remember Trump's ticket to victory. His ticket to victory are these low propensity male, working class male voters, the Joe Rogan audience. And, you know, sneer at them at your own peril, because if they get excited about RFK, or if they think it's, you know, he says Trump's okay, we're going to turn out and vote. That's how Trump changes the composition of the electorate, through that kind of voter. You know, you can make fun of them. But basically, that was the warning. All right, we got to take another break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in.
Need a dumpster? Call Franzie's Disposal. Franzie's Disposal offers dumpster delivery and pickup, perfect for commercial projects, home renovation projects, or construction waste disposal. Serving Schuyler, Chemung, and Steuben counties, we offer 10 and 15-yard roll-off dumpsters with competitive pricing, no contracts, a 9-day rental period, and we deliver in a 30-mile radius. Make construction debris, household demolition, and home cleanup easy. Call Franzie's Disposal today.
Franzie's Disposal, now offering demolition services.
Introduce brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power XL, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto, or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, StirMax or BraiseMax, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power XL StirMax Multi-Cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the StirMax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your StirMax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day absolutely free. Plus, every StirMax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you to Ken for this update. Frank, a person can serve as president for a maximum of 10 years. So if Harris takes over for the rest of Biden's term, she can still serve 2 terms. Thank you, Ken. That was my guess, but I didn't want to guess on something like that. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. So originally Axios was reporting that Harris, this is exact quote, Harris flip-flops on building the border wall. If she's elected, Harris pledges to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the wall along the southern border, a project she once opposed and called un-American. Now you're saying, wait a minute, what is going on? I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, folks. It's not accurate. The Axios and the like are trying to manipulate language to make her look better on immigration, on many of the failed policies of the Biden-Harris campaign. Keep in mind, this Axios piece includes no quotes or statements from Harris or her campaign. Well, her campaign has since pushed back, telling Axios, quote, Harris advisors note that the bipartisan border proposal didn't include any new money to continue building the wall. It just extended the timeline to spend funds that had been appropriated during Trump's last year as president, they say, although the legislation has new restrictions to ensure the money is spent on barriers. It's laughably implausible, responded Mark Krikorian, director of Center for Immigration Studies. She hasn't said a word about this, but her campaign is trying to do the same thing Trump did in 2016, using the wall as a shorthand for toughness or immigration. The way to persuade anybody that she's not just lying, but to actually use her current position to show progress on some of these issues. I think it's just an example of the media wanting to control what they think is best for her, because she's not giving interviews. She's not giving speeches. She's giving speeches, but teleprompter speeches. She's not giving interviews or press conferences. So if they think that could help her, they say she's flip-flopping on that. It is quite remarkable. But J.D. Vance said Kamala Harris is fake. If she wants to build the border wall, she should start right now. Responding to the Axios piece that attempted to spread falsehoods about Harris's support of the border wall. Yes, it was, again, Axios trying to convince you, the mainstream media, remember, Axios just laying off 10% of its workforce, trying to convince you that, no, she's actually really good on the border. It is believable. As Trump's campaign said, it's preposterous, also called it, we'll say, baloney. How much longer will the mainstream media allow Kamala Harris to hide and use staff to speak on her behalf? It's day 37 of 0 interviews, and Kamala's anonymous campaign sources are now claiming she supports President Trump's border wall. This is a preposterous and false claim. And this goes back to what Tom Cotton said to Jonathan Carlos. Jonathan Carlo tried to push some narrative that the campaign had a position that they had flip-flopped on because it would benefit her in the long run. And Tom Cotton telling Carl, you don't know that. You haven't heard that. Some anonymous campaign person on a Friday night tweeting that out does not make it true. Why is the media not demanding actual answers from this campaign, from this nominee? One interview in a month and we're supposed to be cheering. And again, CNN, who got that interview, saying in their piece this morning that she has been receiving a lot of criticism from J.D. Vance for her lack of interviews. Not from the media, who should be criticizing. Not from the voter. They didn't put the voter in there, who rightfully so is wondering what's going on. Because at the end of the day, she has a unique story with a truncated, as they said in that one piece, but a shortened campaign season. Very shortened. Where she became the nominee without receiving a vote to become the nominee. It's not to say the Democrats don't support her. I'm just saying that she did not receive the vote. So you add all those together, no policy positions up on our website. There should be a field day for media. They'd have so many questions to ask, so many headlines, so many clicks, so many likes, so many views, etc., etc. They should be demanding, and they're not. They're saying that J.D. Vance is demanding, but they don't take responsibility. So Axios ran a headline on Tuesday morning that accused Harris of a flip-flop. See, they try to present it as it's a negative for her, all while saying, but look, she's tough on immigration. It's really campaign propaganda coming from Axios. It noted Harris is supportive of a bipartisan border security bill introduced in January. The bill pushes funding to the border while also authorizing limits on asylum entries. I don't want to go through all this. Anyway, you get the idea. It's Axios trying to help her protect herself. The New York Post editorial board said, "Welcome to the Trump train, Kamala Harris." After years of slamming Trump's plan to build a wall along the southern border, Harris is subtly co-opting his message to sell herself as a border hawk. All of these positions she's taking is kind of fascinating, considering we're supposed to just ignore that she's been in office for 3.5 years. Now, at her DNC speech, Harris pledged to bring back the border security bill killed in the Senate last year, which pledges hundreds of millions of dollars to expand the border wall and sign into law if elected. And she used photos of already built sections of the wall in an ad touting her record as a border state prosecutor. Harris noted the wall until about 5 seconds ago in 2017. She called it a stupid use of money and vowed to block any funding for it. Yeah, Tim Walz said something like, well, build a 30-foot ladder factory. In 2019, she slammed the medieval vanity project and promised, "I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances." And of course, she was border czar in an administration that literally sold off the not yet used wall building material it inherited. But now she's facing an electorate furious over the millions of illegal immigrants waved in by Biden-Harris. And it is very often, when you look at the polls, the number one issue to the voters. So Harris wants to look like she is tough on it. And that's what this all boils down to. And that's why Axios was willing to play the useful tool in this scenario. That's not the only MAGA idea she's cribbed. She copied and pasted the no taxes on tips, as we know. Yeah, she has been really copying quite a bit. Meanwhile, nearly every day, some Harris aide says, mostly anonymously, this is happening a lot. Why is that? The candidate no longer holds one or another past on-the-record positions, whether it's the fracking ban she's long wanted or the major price controls she announced this month. Tuesday, top campaign aide Amr Moussa emailed the news that Harris doesn't want to ban non-electric cars. Yep, did you hear that? Doesn't want to ban non-electric cars. Though as proof, she only cited Biden administration policies without actually disavowing the bills Harris backed in the Senate to outlaw them as soon as 2035. And why is it the campaign that's quoting Biden policy, and why isn't quoting the actual candidate who is running for president of the United States for less than 2 months till the end? Harris's plan for winning in November sure seems to involve going MAGA, or at least Trumpifying just enough to convince Americans she had the cure for all the ills that her administration caused. Even if she dons a MAGA cap, all she has below it are the dysfunctional policies of the Biden-Harris years, even with most of the media eager to help sell her supposed transformation. This chameleon strategy is pure spin on a Biden 2.0 agenda. That's the New York Post editorial board. Let's take another break. Keep those comments coming in as promised all morning. We've been going to talk about this. I don't have a lot to talk about with it. Comes as no surprise as we near Election Day that Trump has been indicted again. An election subversion case brought by none other than Jack Smith. We'll talk about that when we come back. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Rated the best hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audion Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to audionhearing.com to get your pair of Audion hearing aids starting at just $189.
Sheldon and Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the Battle of Twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Akam, and this is Frankly Speaking. So Trump has been indicted again in an election subversion case brought by Jack Smith, reported by Politico. The 36-page indictment secured Tuesday by the special counsel is an attempt to recalibrate the case after the Supreme Court's immunity decision. This should come as no surprise, as the talking heads of CNN complained that Mark Zuckerberg was handing Republicans a pre-election treat. What is this? Some have tried to say it's reminiscent of Comey and Hillary. I don't really think so. I don't think this is really a surprise. I think most people have become, unfortunately, used to the lawfare against former President Trump. That it's kind of become, wouldn't you have been surprised if something wasn't done before the election? I was actually more surprised that it was not a total October surprise, that it was a August 27th surprise. Special counsel Jack Smith filed a superseding indictment against former President Trump in a bid to bolster one of 2 criminal cases against the Republican nominee following the Supreme Court's landmark presidential immunity decision. So basically, the way I understand it is it's basically the same charges, just saying it was done while he wasn't in his official capacity as the president. Trump remains charged with the same 4 counts unveiled last August in connection with his bid to overturn his 2020 election defeat by Joe Biden, but Smith's team retooled some of their arguments to comply with the High Court's determination that the 45th president enjoys absolute immunity from prosecution for certain official acts. Smith explained in his filing, and the want and the need for this so badly before the election is so evident. That's why the term has been used so often about lawfare and the weaponization of the judicial system. The indictment's most significant update is the removal of descriptions pertaining to Trump's engagement with former acting Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark and accusations that Trump attempted to leverage the Justice Department to help him remain in power. 2 sources told the Post that Clark is not cooperating with Smith's investigation, contrary to theories floated on social media after Tuesday's indictment was filed. Clark, who is charged alongside Trump in separate election tampering cases out of Georgia, pushed his bosses to sign on to a letter urging GOP legislators in battleground states to reevaluate election results ahead of Biden's inauguration, according to congressional testimony. Now, Trump went to Truth Social in an effort to resurrect a dead witch hunt in Washington, D.C., in an act of desperation, and in order to save face, the illegally appointed special counsel, deranged Jack Smith, has brought a ridiculous new indictment against me, which has all the problems of the old indictment and should be dismissed immediately, Trump said on Truth Social. This is merely an attempt to interfere with the election in all caps, of course, and distract the American people from the catastrophe of Kamala Harris that Kamala Harris has inflicted on our nation, like the border invasion, migrant crime, rampant inflation, and threat of World War III. Now, a point is to be made here that the media can now focus laser-like on this Jack Smith indictment and not even have to mention the lack of policy on Harris's website, the lack of interviews, et cetera, and then also they can ask Harris during an interview. Now, I'm not sure if this will come up, but what do you think about this indictment? And then she can say, well, he's already a convicted felon. You can see where this really, if nothing else, no matter what happens at the end of the day, just like the label of being a convicted felon, it just plays into the media's hand and into the Democrat Party's hands so they can go after Trump. I mean, that's what the original case with Alvin Bragg was all about, so that they could have that label on where they no longer have to say former president. They can say convicted felon, and expect with Kamala Harris now really proud of her time as a prosecutor. There was a time when she wasn't, when Tulsi Gabbard went after for all those arrests of marijuana users at the time, and then laughing when they asked her, did she ever use marijuana? So she wasn't so proud of it back then. Now she's running on that because she can easily say, and she has been saying it over and over in her stump speeches, that she is a prosecutor, so she knows a felon when she sees one. She knows a predator when she sees one. So all this plays right into the hands of the media and the Democrats. That's why it is being considered by so many lawfare. I'm not going to get into the legalese of all this. We do have a couple of statements from the media as to kind of reiterate my point. Trump's new indictment rocks his newly reshaped race against Kamala Harris. Special counsel Jack Smith defiantly re-injected the question of Donald Trump's bid to steal the 2020 election into the intensifying endgame of this year's White House race. Yes, he is trying to, Trump's point, interfere with the election. He wants to be the one known to brought Trump down. I mean, this is perfect storm when you think about it. You've got the, quote, momentum and the vibes of the Harris campaign because she hasn't had to answer tough questions, or any questions for that matter. She's only been giving telepromptered speeches, which is not a knock. That's just a fact. She hasn't had to ad lib or speak off the cuff. Because the big money withheld from Biden went to Harris right away after they stabbed Biden in the back to get him out of there. They show that momentum. Now they've let that momentum keep growing in the media because, again, no negative coverage, only positive coverage about the vibes, and she's got the cool feel to her like we were mentioning earlier. You add all that in, and now the cherry on top is that they can go after Trump with the lawfare. Who knows? Maybe jam him up in court. I don't know the time frame. Or maybe he can keep Trump off the campaign trail. Who knows? By trying to rescue his case after his initial indictment was gutted by the Supreme Court, Smith signaled that he is determined to bring the former president to justice, even though there will be no trial before Election Day. Okay, so there's my answer. So it's more about the optics and saying this is weighing over Trump's head. This is the cherry on top for what is the media's opportunity to push a narrative of momentum, vibes, etc. on one side, and Trump felon, new indictment, etc., etc. I think this is basically Jack Smith saying, I still got this, former FBI Director Andrew McCabe said. His move underscored the huge personal investment Trump has in winning the presidency in November. He not only would return to the nation's top office, but would also gain the authority to halt this and another federal case against him and head off any sentence that could include jail time if he is convicted. Former federal prosecutor Ankush Kadori said this is a very big year, and it is a very important election. This case is at stake in the election because if Trump wins, it is going away. If Trump loses to Harris, this case is going to proceed to some sort of conclusion. Yes, we've got to make sure that we use a judicial system against our political opponents. The precedent this has been set where you even have those, some in the media and some in the Democrat Party say, oh, it's only because it's Trump. This isn't going to be for everyone. The precedent has been set, folks. We got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Back to school arrived. Big Fox TV would like to remind you of some safety tips to keep our children safe in the community as they head back to school. These tips include learning bus safety, remembering bicycle safety, using main roads of travel, and staying in groups. Make sure your child knows what to do if approached by a stranger, and be sure your child knows their after-school plan. This reminder is brought to you by caring businesses in our community. Our friends at Tom's South Corning Collision, Cutler's Carpet, Suburban Propane, Fleet Pride, Sheddon's Wholesale, Gerald's Pharmacy, and Big Fox TV.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because here is where it happens. Saturday on Fox, Judge swaggered up and went supersonic. True story. Saturday on Fox, the Dodgers put on a show in New York. You saw that, right? Saturday on Fox, Dela Cruz showed off his record-breaking arm. And it was Saturday on Fox when Harper went all Harper. So yeah, Saturday on Fox is...
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good point from Ken here. Let's not forget that Trump will be sentenced on September 18th. I couldn't think of the exact date. Thank you, Ken. I'm betting on house arrest to take him off the campaign trail. This will be their first chance before the election to severely or this will be their last chance, excuse me. Yes, not first. Their last chance before the election to severely hamper his run for office. Yes, you know my prediction has been... from the beginning, house arrest, because then they can say, look, we weren't super tough. It's 34 felonies. We had to do something. So why wouldn't he want to just spend some amazing time at Mar-a-Lago that's so beautiful? So we'll do house arrest. I would tend to agree, but we'll know more on September 18th, and then we'll... So you've got a lot. You're right. I didn't even add that to the kind of the cherry on top initiative of the pro-Harris media nonstop. It's okay she doesn't have to give any answers. It's okay if she flip-flops, then attack Trump. That's what we'll see until November. And then probably after. Stephen Collinson says Trump's new indictment rocks his newly reshaped race against Harris. His move underscores, meaning Jack Smith, the huge personal investment Trump has in winning the office. So how is this any different than the other articles Cena put out? This is just another way to twist it. Okay. What's new in the indictment? The facts and the evidence of Smith's case haven't changed. Good. All right. The political significance of Smith's fresh attempt to force Trump to face accountability for his actions adds another dimension to the ex-president's new face-off with his replacement Democratic nominee, Harris. The revised indictment will freshen the issue of Trump's alleged criminality and autocratic ambitions in the mind of voters after his mountain of legal woes faded. Yeah, it's a prime example. They'll be able, and that's what the media can use to ask Harris those questions. That'll be the questions she'll be able to answer. That'll be what they'll be covering. You know, it's so predictable. This will come up on the September 10th debate. This may have come up in Bash's interview with Harris that was recorded yesterday to be broadcast tomorrow. So it plays right into the hands, and that's why Smith did it. Smith knows it. A new challenge for Harris, Stephen Collinson says. The return of Trump's legal quagmire to center stage presents new challenges for Harris. Yes, boy, it's got to be really tough on Harris. Those challenges you got to feel for her. She has focused the early weeks of her White House bid on the pain Americans have faced from high grocery prices, as if she has not been in there for 3.5 years. And to Scott Jennings' point, Democrats for 12 of the last 16. So all the troubles came in those 4 years of Trump. And to mitigate one political weakness, and is seeking to portray herself. What? She has focused the early weeks of her White House bid on the pain Americans have faced from high grocery prices to mitigate one political weakness, and is seeking to portray herself as a candidate of generational change as compared to Trump. What a weird way to word that. One political weakness. Is that their only political weakness? I'm confused. Anyway, the vice president hasn't been quite so overt as Biden in rooting her campaign in a battle for the nation's soul, but she last week cited Trump's legal nightmares to portray him as an unserious man who would trigger extremely serious consequences. Many Harris supporters like the contrast of the vice president, a former prosecutor, and Trump, a convicted felon and indicted suspect. A dynamic certain to play out. Yeah, obviously. Even though the media does not report on how many lives were altered and changed from the marijuana arrest that Harris at one time was so very proud of as prosecutor, then kind of changed her tune on that, especially when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana and just laughed. Aside from the immediate political and electoral implications of the new indictment, Smith's latest filing was a reminder of the surreal reality that a once and possibly future president is being prosecuted for an attempt to ignore the will of voters. The media's got it made. The Democrats have it made. Let me tell you this, though. How many people, like we've seen from numerous quotes throughout the last few years, how many people does this sway that maybe we're looking at Harris and saying, well, this is someone new, different, maybe they don't follow politics that long, haven't followed that long. When do they say, so the lawfare is back, they're going to do everything to keep this man from out of the White House. They don't want me to have a vote. Just like the Democrats didn't have a vote in the primary, they prove once and for all, and on a regular basis, going back to Bernie and Hillary, that they don't trust their own voters. So do you think they trust the voting population in general? No, of course not. So they're trying to do everything they can so that you don't have a say at the end of the day. Whether that's to keep Trump off the ballot like they originally tried, or in this case, continue with the lawfare and the media bias to push Harris across the finish line. And they only have to do it for a little over 2 months. I don't want to go through the takeaways of that, but I would like to hear your opinion on that because we are wrapping things up. It is we're going to wrap up on the debate, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
You rip and tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. Even if the paper is held up to the light, even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-898-1002. That's 1-800-898-1002 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-898-1002. Order now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So glad that you joined us this morning. Thank you for all the great comments, all the waves coming in. Oh, we have a busy week ahead of us, 2 days left, and so much, as you can tell already, that we can talk about. Got a feeling that we'll know some of the topics that will be on a regular basis. As we mentioned, the sentencing on September 18th, but a few days before that, September 10th, will be the debate. Donald Trump has announced that he finally reached an agreement with Harris to take place, the debate to take place on Tuesday, September 10th on ABC. While Harris initially announced in late July that she was ready to debate Trump, there has been back and forth over the details, including rules of the debate. Yes, Harris, it sounded like anyway, changed some of the positions of where she wanted to be, such as standing. She wanted notes. That seems accurate just because of her disastrous debate performances back in 2019, because remember, she didn't make it to 2020, and her difficulties speaking off the cuff. One individual familiar with the negotiations told Politico Playbook, quote, "She's more than happy to have exchanges with him if he tries to interrupt her. And given how shook he seems by her, he's very prone to having outbursts. And I think the campaign would want viewers to hear that." And that's what we had mentioned yesterday. She wanted the microphones on when it wasn't a candidate's turn because she wanted to have that opportunity. And you know she'd be chomping at the bit for it. It'd be one of those forced political moves that sometimes work, scripted political moves where she could say, I'm speaking. And for some reason they believe that makes her look forceful, makes her look powerful. As I believe it was Ken who said yesterday on the program, it also paints that picture of, as a woman specifically running for president, that she is being disrespected by Donald Trump. So the list goes on and on. Yes, of course she wanted that. The Trump campaign pushed back on that. They wanted muted mics. They wanted the same terms as the CNN debate. The Harris camp, after having already agreed to the CNN rules, asked for a seated debate with notes and opening statements. We said no changes to the agreed upon rules. This is a quote from Jason Miller. That said, Trump announced that he won the battle, as the rules will be the same as the CNN debate after all. Quote, this is what Trump tweeted out. I have reached an agreement with the radical left Democrats for a debate with comrade Kamala Harris. It will be broadcast live on ABC Fake News, by far the nastiest and most unfair newscaster in the business, on Tuesday, September 10th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Oh, kind of close. The rules will be the same as the last CNN debate, which seemed to work out well for everyone except perhaps crooked Joe Biden. The debate will be stand-up and candidates cannot bring notes or cheat sheets, Trump explained. We have also been given assurance by ABC that there will be a fair and equitable debate and that neither side will be given the questions in advance, so no Donna Brazil. However, he said the date will be held open in case she changes her mind or flip-flops, as she has done on every single one of her long-held and cherished policy beliefs. A possible third debate, which would go to NBC, has not been agreed to by the campaign. All right, that does it for us today. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the phone calls and the waves. Make sure you join us tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to hear from a representative from the Clemens Center. Tell us about their upcoming season lineup of Broadway plays. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's program with the Clemens Center. Also, we'll be covering all the issues of the day. As always, that number on the bottom of the screen, you can reach out 24/7. I would love to hear from you. It doesn't have to just be during the show. You can reach out with your comments on topics of the day or what we discussed on this morning's broadcast. So I look forward, as always, to hearing from you. And we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.